Well, good morning, everyone. I'm checking to see. Nope, it doesn't show that it's recording just yet. Looks like Facebook is having some connection issues. So pardon me just a moment. Oh, finally, here we go. Yes, we're finally started. Sorry for the delay. I appreciate your patience because not sure what was going on. There's some connection issue that I had the spinning wheel of death from Facebook going on, so couldn't get it to get started. So glad that you're here. This is Resilience in Practical Terms, How Hope is Built. This is episode 5 in the series. So if you've been following along, I appreciate your presence and appreciate your chiming in this morning. I did a poll asking for folks to tell me which is a better time of day for you to be able to join in live. Some of you said lunchtime, some of you said evening time. So I'll keep playing around with different times that I do these. I'm shooting for doing shooting. That sounds violent. I'm even aiming sounds violent. That's targeting. I am being intentional about wanting to do these on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So when you chime in, let me know, chime in the comments and let me know that you're here. And I'll keep working to make this be at a time when you can be available so that it can be a more interactive space. I want to hear from you what you need, what you're going through, and how what I'm doing can be of most help to you. The resilience teachings that I do for professionals across the country, I'm trying to get that content out there, both for family caregivers that are currently, many of you are at home now with a loved one caring for them without the support that you're accustomed to having. Some of you are a caregiver of a loved one who is in a facility, skilled nursing facility, for instance, and you're not able to get in to see them. And then there's just the rest of us that are the average bear that are going through this pandemic. And even before and after the pandemic, life gets lifey. And when it's lifey, we want to know how to be resilient. People want to be free. They want to be happy. They want to be their best selves. And so those are the things that I talk about, is how we can be more resilient through challenges. And it is about breathing. It is about mindfulness. It is about a gratitude list, but it's not just about that. It's about truly transforming our brains and our neurochemistry to transform the way that we see the world, the stories we tell ourselves about the world, how we make sense of it, where we find meaning and community and connection. And so I want to get this information out there to you. So if you're struggling today and if you're having a hard time, whatever your circumstance, know that A, you're not crazy. B, you're not alone. And C, you will find your way through this. And you don't have to do it alone. So together we can build more hope. So let's talk about that. Recently, I saw a post. Hey, Sue, glad that you're here and hope this stuff is helpful for you. I appreciate you being a part of this community. So I saw a post that I came back around from in my memories earlier this week, and I shared it. It's one of my favorite posts. It is a post of strangers holding on to a man who was trying to jump off the London Bridge to commit suicide. Strangers passing by saw what was happening, and as they did, they grabbed a hold of him and they hung on. And the picture, you can see it earlier in my feed, my timeline this week. In the picture, you see that they've wrapped some sort of a bungee cord around him. He's on one side of the bridge railing, they're on the other. There are men up top who have their arms around his shoulders. One man has his face buried into the man's cheek and neck, and it looks like he's whispering into his ear. There's a woman down below that's kneeling on the ground with her arms through the bars wrapped around his legs. And according to the reports, these strangers that were passing by saw what was happening, dropped what they were doing and where they were headed, and it's making me teary thinking about it, and they wrapped themselves around him. They wrapped themselves around him and they said, "We'll hang on for you until you can hang on again." And they did that. They came together, these strangers, and they wrapped around him and they held on to him until emergency crews could arrive and literally talk him and bring him off the ledge. And so as I saw that, I thought that is what helps me build hope. That is what brings me hope about humanity, is seeing moments like this idea that it gives me hope in humanity, that we can pull together and that we can come through this. I see Al, Carol, thank you for chiming in. Yeah, I know you want to hug Al. We're all struggling and touch deprived and really wanting to hug and hang on to our loved ones. And so it's one of the reasons that image was touching, literally for me, figuratively, is seeing the touching that was happening. And so as we look for areas where we can find hope in humanity, we get to be intentional about our seeking. I'll talk about that more towards the end. But there's a difference between things that give us hope in humanity and give us hope in the world. There's something different about hope in ourselves. We can't give people hope in themselves. So when I teach boundaries to professional caregivers, I talk about the fact that we often feel this onerous burden, this heavy burden on our shoulders, that we must give hope to patients and families, especially when I teach people that are working at the end of life or in palliative care and hospice and home health, that they have to somehow give people hope when people are in despair. Megan Devine says, some suffering cannot be fixed. It can only be carried. But we aren't the ones that can carry it. We can show up with them and help make the load a bit easier for them, but we can't pick up their burdens and take them on our own shoulders. It doesn't work that way. It deprives them. It infantilizes them. It says to them, you can't carry this. I have to. You can't handle your own life. We have to handle it for you. And so when we feel that overly strong sense of boundaries to the toxic end of things, for us and for them, we take on more than is ours, and we look for ways to try to fix things for them by giving them hope. But we don't need to. And in fact, we can't. You can't give people hope. We think that hope is a feeling, and it's not. Hope, according to the research, is a cognitive behavioral construct that we develop when we face challenging circumstances. We have people around us who believe in our ability to find our way through. And then once we have found our way through that hard time, kind of like this one, we have built hope that the next time we face a challenge, we'll be able to make it through because we already have. And so we go through a challenge, have people around us who believe in our ability to find our way through. That's where we come in. And then once we have made it through the other side, we then have built hope, confidence, if you will, that the next time we face a challenge, we will be able to handle it. Because see, if I'm going through a struggle, and pardon me as I pull the screen down a bit because things are getting in the way. If I'm going through a struggle, and people around me take care of everything for me, I don't learn how to do it myself, or I don't learn that I can do it myself. And so we actually hurt people when we try to do too much for them. We get to be that person in the middle saying, while you go through this, we're with you and you're not alone. That's our role. They're the ones that are building hope. I first started thinking about hope in this different way back in 2012. I was listening to an interview through Krista Tippett on Being. Used to be on NPR, now it's her own podcast. It's an amazing program. I highly recommend it to you if you're looking for good in the world. But Krista Tippett on Being, she was interviewing Brene Brown back in November of 2012. I was on a plane coming back from DC, where I'd been presenting at a large conference and doing some work with the National Hospice and Palliative Care Organization, where I used to be their community leader for the spiritual caregiver section. I sit on their trauma-informed care, end-of-life care work group, and I also chair their ethics advisory council right now. And as I was coming back from DC, I was writing on the plane and I was listening to this podcast, and Brene started talking about hope. They were actually talking about helicopter parenting. And Brene shared that, we think we help our children when we smooth out all of life's rough patches for them, but we don't. We actually hurt them because we rob them of the opportunity of learning how to fall and learning that they can get back up. In developmental psychology terms, it's called industry. To know that we can, that we are capable. And so as we build hope, every time we fall down and get back up. And so she quotes the work of C.R. Snyder, who's now deceased, but all of his research, just like all of Brene's work, is in vulnerability and courage and authenticity and in shame. Then C.R. Snyder's work was in hope. And she cites his work, and he found that hope is not a feeling. I can feel hopeful, but hope in and of itself is not a feeling. It's a cognitive behavioral construct, she said, that we develop. And pardon me, I have a puppy who's hopeful that I will play with her. She's in the cone of shame this week, having had a little bit of surgery, a little knot taken off of her neck last week. So she is hopeful that I will play with her right now. And I forgot the dog treats that I normally hand to her at this moment. So everybody say hi to Teddy and wish her well. She gets the cone off on Friday. So as I listened to Brene talk about this idea, quoting Snyder's work on hope, that when we're helicopter parents, we actually hurt our kids rather than help them, I started thinking, because I was working on writing about caregivers and boundaries, and I started thinking about this idea that the same thing, when we are caregivers, family caregivers, when we're parents, when we're friends or neighbors or with someone at the grocery store, when we're trying to show up for people who are hurting, and we take on too much or try to do too much, we actually hurt them. We teach them, I don't trust you to know how to do your life, so I'm going to do it for you. I know better than you how to handle your life, how to make meaning out of this circumstance, where you should find your hope, how to make sense out of what's happening to you, and that we actually hurt them when we do that. And so that we don't need to give them hope. We can't give them hope. But that what we can do is be the ones who show up here and say, while you go through this yucky thing, I'm with you, and you don't have to be alone. That is how we help people build hope in themselves. I used to teach for ropes courses many years ago. I did that for about 25 years, but started in college and did that for a very long time. And it's challenge by choice. We don't force anyone to do anything. We try not to even let peer pressure be what forces people to do things, whether it's the low elements or the high elements, where they're in a rock climbing harness, hooked to a rope, 30 to 60 feet up in the air, doing different challenges on aircraft cable and wooden beams. It's a great experience. I love it. And they jump for a trapeze. I mean, there's all sorts of amazing things that you get to do, but it can be quite scary if it's not something that you've done. And so as people would go through this, they would get to the point where they would be halfway up a pole, or they would be on top of the pamper pole. If you've ever been part of a ropes course, you know about it. And they would be about to jump for that trapeze, but then they would get scared. And then they would say, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I'm coming down. I'm coming down. I'm coming down. I'm not doing this. And they're like, how do I get down? What do I do? And I would just ask them to pause and to breathe, because lizard brain had come online. They're in a panic. They feel under threat. So prefrontal cortex, where we have access to reasoning and decision-making skills. And we're, instead of responding from a reasoned place in our mammalian brain, our higher developed brain, we go back to lizard brain at the brainstem, and the amygdala is like, we're under threat. So we react rather than respond. And so I ask them to pause and to breathe, because at that moment, if they start trying to come down, they'll hurt themselves. So it's my job not to coerce them into going forward, but to try to get them to calm down long enough to be able to hear me and hear themselves. And I ask them, which is stronger, the want to or the fear? And they knew instantly what I was thinking, talking about. And so they would think and they would answer. And if it was, the want to is bigger. All right, then we'll walk you through this and we'll get you through this. We're here for you. We've got you. We won't let you fall. Or actually, you may fall, but if you do, we've got you. You're not going to hit the ground. We will catch you. We'll hold you. And we would cheer them on. And the other kids or executives or whomever would come around and also cheer them on and support them as long as they wanted to go, as far as they wanted to go. And if it was, I want to come down, the fear's bigger. Okay, good for you for knowing that. Good for you for taking care of yourself that way and speaking up for yourself. Good for you for not being afraid to say what you need and to honor that the fear is telling you this isn't the time. And so we've got you there too. We're going to walk you down. And the participants standing around would cheer that person just as loudly as the person that went ahead and jumped for that freaking trapeze 9 feet away from them or 7 feet away from them. It depends on what status was building that course. And so we helped them. And as we did these elements, we would have people who were kids with learning differences, who were women, who were fleeing domestic violence, workers, professionals. And so as we did this work, People would overcome an obstacle, an element, as a group or as an individual. And they would then come away saying, wow, if I can do that, I can do this thing. If I can do that, I can do other hard things. Success builds upon success. I just got through reading a book by a psychologist called Succeed, and I'm blanking on her name here. Yeah, shoot. Carol Dweck did the forward, but it's a book called Succeed. Great book on motivation and willpower and what it takes for us to help motivate us to hold to our goals and actually be successful in them. Highly recommend the book to you. It's on Audible through the library and other places as well. And I also ordered the paperback book. But they once built success builds upon success, according to the research. Psychologists know this. Once we have success in one small area, we now have success in another. The idea behind making your bed in the military, if you do one thing in the morning perfectly, it sets your day off, and then you have more and more and more success. And so we succeed at the little things, or we succeed in one area, and it lets us know, wow, I fell down and I got back up. I got over this wall. I got through this fear. I pushed past this, or I pushed past my fear of people thinking badly of me if I didn't keep on going. And I came back down, and they're telling me that was a good thing, to honor that and to know that about myself. If I did that, I can do X, Y, and Z. We get to be the people in the middle who say, while you do this, we believe in your ability to find our way through. And then once people do, they've built hope. So we help them build hope by saying, I believe in your ability to find your way through. Instead of unsolicited advice, judgment, shame, blame, projection. Well, if you would just do this, you'd be fine. Well, I think you should do this, or you should just do all of the things that we do to try to fix other people's struggle so that we can feel more comfortable. It's one of the next books, the book on showing up, the well-intentioned but unintentionally stupid things we say, what to say, what not to say, and how to just be present. It's a whole other topic. I'll talk about that some other day. But we can just say to them, I believe in your ability to find your way through. And while you do, you're not alone. And so as we help people build hope, rather than feel like we need to give them hope, it's less pressure on us. It's more honoring of them. It gives them more autonomy and dignity. And it's not just going, okay, I believe in you. You got this. Good luck. Bye-bye. No, it's we're here. We're here. And you've got this. And you're not alone. And so as we look for ways to build hope in ourselves, we tackle the big things. We look for people to come around us and support us. When we look for help to help others build hope, we look for ways to congratulate them and to honor them and to cheer them on in whatever they're facing. And we can leave our opinions to ourselves. And then when we're looking to build hope in the greater humanity, which is different, there's hope in the humanity and there's hope in ourselves. We can help other people build hope in the greater humanity. We can be the people on the bridge who wrap up around someone and say, until you can hold on again, we're going to hold on for you. And so as we look for hope, it can be so tempting. I'm driven to despair. I have to be careful with how much I take in of social media and the media. Some of the reports coming out this morning were things that in my privilege, I did not know about, of things that happened back in February. And so there are a lot of things that are going on that can tempt us to lose hope in humanity. But remember, media looks for sound bites. Trolls and bots are active. There are things that are clickbait. I'm not saying they're not true. And I'm not saying that we ignore the bad things. We need to see, and we need to be aware, and we need to advocate and be present. But I don't help anyone if I so jump into the muck and the mire and overwhelm myself. If I get over my head, I can't give anybody a life preserver. And so I have to pull back and pull away, and also look to intentionally feed the hope bucket inside of myself by looking for things that say, that gives me hope in humanity. Mark Nepo writes that before fixing what you're looking at, check what you're looking through. And so what lens am I looking through? Am I looking through a lens that is looking for the best in others? Or am I looking for the worst? Am I looking for reasons to hope in the world and in other people and in myself? Or am I looking for ways to be angry and to be angst-filled and to do something to discharge the helplessness that I feel and some place to bitch and complain and gripe. We vent, but then we say what also is true. My friend Amanda shared this earlier today. Shout out, Amanda. Love you. And I wanted to share this, and I'll close with this because I see that I'm at time. It says, be the person who cares. Be the person who makes the effort, the person who loves without hesitation. Be the person who bears it all, the person who never shies away from the depth of their feeling or the intensity of their hope. Be the person who believes in the softness of the world and the goodness of other people and the beauty of being open and untethered and trusting. Be the person who takes the chance, who refuses to hide. Be the person who makes people feel seen, the person who shows up. Trust me when I say, be the person who cares. Because the world doesn't need any more carelessness, any more disregard, because there is nothing stronger than someone who continues to stay soft in a world that hasn't always been kind to them. And it's attributed to Bianca Sparacino from The Strength in Our Scars. So be soft. If something happens, we've got your back. Be open. It's safe to do so because we're with you and you're not alone. Look for good in the world and in others and tell them. And then be the good. Once you're full yourself, be the good that gives someone else hope to hang on. Hope something of this has been helpful. I'll see y'all again next Tuesday. Let me know when is a good time for you. Again, keep chiming in about times and topics of things that you want to hear. Check out my website at carlacheatham.com. I'm starting to put up the 15-minute fill-ups for caregivers. I do stick to about 15, 16 minutes on those with webinar slides. The more formal version of my resilience training broken into small chunks for professionals. This is an informal, ongoing series I'll be doing on Facebook Live for a while. I may record them later and put them up on the website for family caregivers and the average bear, but that's the professional development series. I'm recording the last 2 parts of the series. It's a 4-part series with an introduction video. I've recorded part 1 and 2. Those are up on my website. Thank you, Sherry Scott from Resource Connections. And I will be recording the parts 3 and 4 of that series and putting those up. And then I'll start working on recording other series. I'm also working on recording the resilience book. Cross your fingers and toes and send good juju my way. But pay attention there. There's some blogs, old blogs. My assistant is back from maternity leave. Yay, Sarah! Congrats on the baby. He's adorable. Her 3rd Amazon boy that she's given birth to. And so as she gets back into the saddle this next month, and as I get creative and find resources of money to be able to pay my assistant, then she'll be doing more work to help me update a lot of the blog posts that I used to have on hospicetimes.com before they shut down. We pulled those off. I'll be repurposing those and updating those and posting them on. Some of them will go on the carlacheatham.com blog. That's more the professional development, power, presence, showing up, boundaries, ethics, spiritual care, et cetera, over there. More of the grief posts are on hospicewhispers.com. That's where I blog about grief and suffering and struggle. Haven't decided where I'm going to put the family caregiver pieces. Sherry put placeholders on the carlacheatham.com website for the family caregiver pieces, like videos like this that I'll start. I'll see which of these are workable and post those there, edit them, or just re-record them and put those. I'll probably put those on the carlacheatham.com site. But let me know topics that you need, time of day, and whatever else there is that we can do to give you love and support. So, all right. Much love to everyone. Mwah. Go find the good. Go be the good. You're not alone. Take care, everyone.